until you know the basics, the foundation of how to build muscle, how to burn fat, why are you going to overcomplicate this process, which is already complicated, and add another variable?
Listen, I don't have to worry about, the difference is now I don't have sponsors and people that, oh, Jay, it's voodoo, you can't talk about, like, I can talk about whatever I want.
Even though performance-enhancing drugs are integral to the sport of bodybuilding, very few bodybuilders talk openly about the steroids they actually use. Let's hear what some Mr. Olympia winners, the top names in the world of bodybuilding, have to say about steroids. Jay Cutler on steroids. Bodybuilding legend and four-time Mr. Olympia winner Jay Cutler shared his steroid cycles. Bodybuilding is an extreme sport, and a lot of athletes use performance-enhancing drugs to make additional gains after reaching their natural potential. Irresponsible use of these drugs has also been shown to have caused negative effects on the health of many bodybuilders. Some of the recent deaths have also been attributed to PED steroid use.
I did use it. It really didn't do much for me, to be honest. I mean, I still always had a problem eating when I was that big and eating as much food as I was.
During an interview with IFBB bodybuilder and powerlifter Greg Doucette, bodybuilding legend and four-time Mr. Olympia winner Jay Cutler went into detail about his own history with steroids.
The other stuff I'm not really familiar. I've never really experienced it. SARMs, like, oh, they're on the level of, okay, do you take steroids?
To start the discussion, Greg Doucette stated that even the local-level bodybuilding competitors presumably take heavier doses of PEDs compared to a high-level competitor like Jay Cutler. Doucette specifically asked Cutler what substances and doses he takes now versus the highest point of his career.
Yeah, I mean, people have asked me, and I said, listen, you're better off. From my understanding of it is they're going to say he's lying. I have the knowledge. I mean, I have no reason to lie.
During his conversation with Doucette, Cutler spoke about his steroid cycles during his career, specifically during the years 2000 to 2005. As for the steroids he was actually taken during that period, Cutler said that his whole year consisted of buying exotic drugs like Parabolan, Winstrol Amps, and Masteron.
It's all about knowledge and it's all about experience, and you know, we're all just kind of using, no one knows the perfect cycle.
Jay Cutler added that his ex-wife was a nurse practitioner and made sure that they were conscious about maintaining good health while on PEDs. Cutler keeps a check on his health and stated that the last time he checked, his testosterone levels were in the 640 ng range.
You know, it's a personal choice, but at the same time, you've got to be careful and have some sort of supervision of it. Your buddies at the gym that are telling you to do this or do that.
While Cutler isn't taking any of those drugs now, he explained that he was on a real HRT, or hormone replacement therapy, and used the interview as an opportunity to dispel some misconceptions about the amount he was actually taking.
Is that something you can do long term? There's no way. There's no way that's healthy. It's an absolute waste.
People generally use insulin in a medical context. However, bodybuilding is an extreme sport, and many competitors use the drug for the muscles to absorb nutrients quickly after training. Jay Cutler admitted that he toyed with insulin as well. However, stopped using it in 2004 and absolutely never used it again.
Peptides, like, I never messed with that stuff. GHRP6, and I don't know, really didn't do much for me, to be honest. Guys saying, I'm natural.
What wasn't said in the interview was that steroids have some undeniably serious side effects. As Dr. Leon Creaney of Manchester's Institute of Health and Performance told us in 2019, in a recent Danish study, anabolic androgenic steroids users were found to have all-cause mortality 3 times higher than non-users. Users also had a much higher prevalence of male breast development, infertility, erectile dysfunction, heart muscle disease, abnormal heart rhythm, blocked artery, liver damage, jaundice, and acne. According to another one of Jay's interviews on one of his social media sites, he achieved his body transformation by consuming roughly 6,000 calories per day of protein and complex carbohydrate-rich foods. Additionally, his high-volume training routine and 6 to 8 hours of sleep per night have helped him to shape up for competitions such as the Arnold Classic and Mr. Olympia, where he 4 times finished second to the legendary Ronnie Coleman. Indeed, proper nutrition, rigorous workouts, and a healthy lifestyle all contribute to muscle growth and recovery. However, you can also hasten your progress by using a bulking stack based on natural and legal compounds that work to increase your T levels without the harmful side effects associated with running an anabolic cycle. Brandon Curry on steroids. Brandon Curry's 2019 Mr. Olympia win was a controversial one, seeing as he did not come in at 100%, which he acknowledged. Many consider his win slightly more illegitimate since Sean Roden, last year's winner, was knocked out, several other key players were not competing, and 6 times Mr. Olympia Dorian Yates wasn't afraid to offer a bit of criticism of the champ, which Curry responded to shortly after. But the Tennessee native wasn't the only one who received criticism, as it's well known by now that many of the top competitors displayed physiques that were not worthy of the Sandow. Brandon Curry won the 2019 Arnold Classic competition earlier in the year, and many believe he won based on his popularity going into the Olympia. But he's the champ regardless, and will be interested to see how he handles both his newfound attention and the pressure to make the necessary improvements. But everyone was still interested in what the 2019 Mr. Olympia champion Brandon Curry had to say as he sat down with Patrick Bet-David in an interview and discussed the nitty-gritty details of PEDs in professional bodybuilding today.
You shouldn't do that. You should learn your body, know that you know how to properly train, know that you know how to properly build muscle, know that you know how to properly incorporate nutrition.
Brandon Curry explained that if athletes decide to take drugs without knowing all of the basics, then they'll have to learn everything all over again as soon as they hit a wall.
Learn it right because you learned it wrong. Even in the Middle East, some of those guys, they think that's the first thing they got to do. Okay, I'm training now. What do I got to take? It's like,
and this becomes dangerous because many guys will resort to even more drugs to solve this problem, which is really not the solution.
My thing for these young guys is you got to come in and develop your physique completely. Make it more complicated because you're throwing in more variables, which means there's so many other things that could change.
Ronnie Coleman on steroids. Retired bodybuilder Ronnie Coleman is considered to be the greatest bodybuilder in the world. An 8-time Mr. Olympia champion, Coleman is renowned for his dominant physique. He also has served in the police force. The King, as he is called by many, appeared on the podcast Joe Rogan Experience. He discussed his bodybuilding journey, peak fitness, and diet, and also revealed that he used steroids. He emphasized that he does not encourage others to do so. Steroids or performance-enhancing drugs are the banes of the sports field. They have particularly plagued bodybuilding for several generations and perhaps sadly, always will. It is considered impossible to win the Mr. Olympia title without using steroids.
The people think steroids
And people
kill
think
you.
you're taking like tons of stuff. I wasn't taking tons of stuff.
Lifting more,
Working out, lifting more, gifted.
As unfair and sad as that is, while many prefer not to speak about it, Ronnie Coleman isn't one of them. On the podcast, he revealed that he started taking steroids when he was 30 years old, after staying clean for 6 years. Coleman began bodybuilding at the age of 24. Generally, PEDs are taken to gain an illegal advantage or a competitive edge against opponents. Similarly, Coleman started using steroids because he was tired of falling short in competitions.
Another thing you gotta have too is genetics. You know, look at the baseball players that have taken stuff, and look at us. They can't get that big.
In fact, one of his fellow competitors, Flex Wheeler, was the one who secured him his supply. At the time, the Drug Enforcement Agency was trying to crack down on the black market. Ronnie Coleman would obtain testosterone and growth hormone prescriptions from doctors and present them to DEA officials during competitions.
I'd be taking, a bunch of stuff. Next day, nothing. Body felt normal. Didn't bother me a bit.
That's so crazy.
Didn't get depressed or nothing,
The use of steroids or any kind of PED has to be designed in a specific manner. During the podcast, Coleman said that there was a misconception that he was recklessly using them. As Ronnie Coleman started using PEDs, he started moving up the ranks and winning annual bodybuilding competitions. Coleman could naturally deadlift 750 pounds. Using steroids didn't make him exponentially stronger or bigger, he just quickly became much more shredded. Steroids have far-reaching effects outside the sports field. They may contribute to illegally enhancing performance, but they can cause severe health conditions that can also prove to be fatal. The use of anabolic steroids has been found to cause higher rates of premature death in men, and some limited studies have also shown that those who abuse steroids are at a greater risk of suicide. The physical and mental repercussions of using PEDs are horrific, especially when bodybuilders go off steroids. Probably during the off-season, they could suffer from depression, which is a common side effect. What was shocking about the revelation was that Ronnie Coleman said that he never cycled off gear during the off-season. He went completely cold turkey and stopped taking steroids. The fact that he did not suffer from any long-term health conditions due to PEDs is also very uncommon. Ronnie Coleman was juicing up under constant supervision, and his doctor would run blood tests on him every 3 to 4 months. He said that if any bodybuilder is caught by the DEA, they confiscate everything. The 58-year-old emphasized that he does not encourage the use of steroids.
They made us do it legally.
And you would get prescriptions for steroids?
Yeah.
It was because they were getting depressed from the steroids coming off of it?
Coming off of it.
Phil Heath on steroids. 7-time Mr. Olympia Phil Heath reigned over the men's open division for many years, but stepped away from competing in 2020. During a video on the Muscular Development YouTube channel, Heath shared the cycle he's been using while not competing at bodybuilding shows. Given the shape Phil Heath has maintained since stepping away from competing, many believe he's bound to return to the Mr. Olympia stage sooner or later. His 3D look, detailed muscle separation, and incredible upper body guided him to success at the highest level. Despite speculation about his return, four-time Mr. Olympia Jay Cutler has shot down these notions, suggesting that the gift is done with competing for good. Heath also revealed that he would serve in the broadcast booth as a commentator for the 2022 Mr. Olympia contest. Even though Phil won't be competing at the prestigious show this year, he still looks massive with a shredded physique. Maintaining quality muscle mass is no easy task. Phil and bodybuilders alike routinely train, consume large quantities of food, and use supplementation to facilitate the process. There is an ongoing discussion amongst the bodybuilding community about whether cycles should be minimal or intense. Three-time classic physique Olympia champion Chris Bumstead revealed that he's taking a decreased cycle and found success. Bodybuilding veteran Samir Bannout advocated for using fewer drugs after mentioning that Arnold Schwarzenegger looked his best with only 2 compounds. Phil Heath discussed his current bodybuilding cycle with Muscular Development Magazine's Ron Harris. Phil said his combination of testosterone, DHEA, prednisolone, dihexa, and a little bit of T3 has helped him with his morning energy levels while staying away from caffeine. Heath provided a rundown of some of the other medications he's currently taking. While taking peptides, Phil noticed that it took a few months for most people using them to see results. It's unclear if and when the 42-year-old could make a competitive return, and his former coach, Hani Rambod, believes that road would be a difficult one to travel. Rambod doesn't doubt Heath's mindset or determination, but believes he would have to present a better physique than all of his past appearances to tie Ronnie Coleman and Lee Haney's record of 8 Olympia titles. The former champion is dedicated to preserving his physique. Heath is committed to maintaining an impressive build even when he's not preparing to compete at Mr. Olympia. That's all for today's video, folks. We'll see you another time.